Welcome to my 235th video on my work with OO gauge. The subject of this video will be the model saddle tank sold by Triang as R151 and R153 in both Clockwork and electric versions. I recently acquired both versions, Clockwork and electric, and in this video I'll be going into the background of this model and servicing and demonstrating both Clockwork and electric versions. Here are the two models that I acquired on my bench, the Clockwork version in front, the electric version behind. The Clockwork version here reflects how the model was originally sold in BR markings. My electric version came to me already rebadged as an LMS loco, as you see here. Here are those two versions side by side. The bodies are made from exactly the same casting, and both bodies are labelled on the bottom, Made in England, Triang R151, R153. The only difference between the two bodies is the hole for the winding key in the Clockwork version. I suspect that this hole was simply drilled after casting, but it has been suggested that the casting was modified by inserting a pin. I didn't get a key with my Clockwork example, so I had to improvise with a toy key that I had on hand, seen here. The chassis are, of course, quite different. Here are the Triang service sheets for the two chassis, Clockwork on the left, electric on the right. It appears that this model was sold by Triang from about 1955 until 1961 in both Clockwork and electric versions. It doesn't appear in the Triang catalogue after 1961, and so far as I know, was never sold as a Hornby model after Triang took over the Hornby brand in 1964. There has been a fair amount of controversy as to what real loco, if any, this model was based on. The most commonly found suggestion, which appears in print quite often, as well as on bulletin boards and things, is that it was based on the SECR Wainwright S-Class, which is seen here. The SECR S-Class was one of the largest 060 saddle tank engines used on British rails, so that might be a point in favour of the association, but other features don't match well. I'll get into a more detailed comparison in a moment. Another saddle tank class with some similarities is the Lancashire and Yorkshire Class 23, of which an example is seen here in LMS livery after the amalgamation in 1923. Yet another somewhat similar class is the L&YR Special Tank, of which an example is seen here in 1948, just before nationalisation, seen in Crewe, where it was serving as a depot shunter. Here you can see the Triang model at top left, together with examples of the three classes just discussed. Clearly, the Triang model is in no way an accurate scale model of any of these classes. They are all 060 saddle tanks with inside cylinders and smoke boxes protruding in front of the saddle tank. But other features differ substantially. The shape of the cab window on the Triang model is closest to the SECR S-Class, but the S-Class has flat sides to its tanks, whereas the Triang model has tanks that just curve evenly to the bottom. The Triang model also has a single straight splasher over both sets of front wheels. That's a feature not found so far as I know on any saddle tank that ever ran in Britain. Larger engines such as the L&YR Clawton and the L&YR D11 had straight splashers like that. Quite a number of different classes did, but I've never seen such a splasher on an 060 saddle tank. If you do know of such an example, please do let me know in the comments below. It's my personal opinion that this model was designed as just sort of a generic idea of a saddle tank, and made large and bulgy in body in order to allow fitting of the Clockwork mechanism. I suspect that the electric version was more derivative from the Clockwork version, rather than vice versa. There is one more wrinkle to this story. The Triang model was always sold with the running number 748. Now, that doesn't seem to correspond to anything in BR service or in LMS service, or as an SECR tank engine so far as I know. However, there was an example of the L&YR Class 23 that carried the number 748 in Lancashire and Yorkshire service. I haven't been able to find a picture of that specific loco, but here's a picture of its sister engine 752 as preserved. So, did the Triang model acquire its 748 running number from an L&YR Class 23? I don't know, but it's possible. For what it's worth, the Class 23 numbered 748 was originally built as a Class 25 tender engine in 1881. It was converted to a Class 23 saddle tank in 1896. Upon amalgamation in 1923, it became an LMS engine and was renumbered 11447. It survived into British Railways ownership in 1948 and was renumbered again as 51447. It was finally withdrawn in 1957, 76 years after its initial construction. I had resisted buying this model up until now basically because of its not really appearing to be based on any specific prototype, but I finally acquired these examples because it is kind of an interesting model in its own right. It sort of exists right on the cusp between Clockwork toy engines and modern scale railway modelling. The Triang saddle tank model is considerably more realistic looking than many earlier Clockwork engines, such as this pre-war Bing example. Though of course many earlier electric locos also weren't terribly realistic. Still, the Triang saddle tank represents a move to something considerably closer to realism, whilst keeping the Clockwork option open. I wanted to run both of these models. They both appeared to be in operating order when I got them, but I wanted to clean the wheels before I put the models onto my tracks, as they were fairly filthy, and I didn't want that dirt depositing on my tracks. I cleaned the wheels of both examples using electrical contact cleaner on cotton buds and a bronze brush in a rotary tool. This is the bottom of the Clockwork model. The smallest gear seen here is moved by the reversing rod. With that gear in this position, the model will go forward. When the reversing rod is pulled back, the small gear will move to engage in a different way, and the model will go backwards. When I got the model, the reversing rod was between the forward and reverse positions, and so this small gear wasn't engaged with another gear at all, with the result that when I wound the Clockwork, things spun, but the wheels didn't move. I was initially afraid the model needed repair, but I found that when I simply pushed the reversing rod firmly home, the wheels actually ran fine. I cleaned the wheels of both versions thoroughly, the Clockwork version seen in the servicing cradle here. A lot of dirt came off them. I wound the Clockwork model using my toy key. The two rods sticking out of the back of the cab control the operation of the model. The nearer rod on the same side as the winding hole stops and starts the model. When that rod is pulled out, the model runs, and the rod can be pushed in to stop the model running. And of course that rod needs to be pushed in order to wind the model without the Clockwork immediately running down again as you wind it. The other rod at the back here is the reverser. When it is pushed in all the way, the model will go forwards when started, and when that rod is pulled out all the way, the model will go backwards when started. I got the Clockwork model onto my Hornby 003 rail tracks for some running. I set the switch on my GaugeMaster controller to the central position between F and R, which results in no electrical power going to the tracks. So, now some video of my initial running efforts with the Clockwork version. Well, this is slightly exciting and definitely something different. My first try with a Clockwork engine, not something I'm intending to get into majorly, but since I was able to pick this one up quite cheaply, I thought we'd give it a try. Now, I've got the camera on a tripod at the moment because I can't wind this guy without using both hands. I did find a suitable key for him. We'll perhaps turn him the other way up. And I don't want to overwind him, but wind. let's not force him. The key seemed to slip a bit there, and it isn't really the right key anyway, so it's just an old toy key that I had. And I've got clock keys as well. Now I'm going to have to pause because I'm going to have to, I want to handhold the camera for running, but so I'll get him railed up and we'll try and run him. Okay, now I've got the electrical power turned off and we'll see if I can run this Clockwork engine. I'm going to zoom out a bit first. Now, if I've got him railed right, even this I could really do with two hands to do. Whoops, there we go. That's his control. Ooh. Of course, this is the problem with Clockwork engines. They do tend to zoom around fast and then they run out of power fairly quickly, but that's the nature of them. Well, he got round my circuit twice, nearly 3 times now. Don't stop under the tunnel. There we go. 3 times. He got 3 times round my circuit before stopping because his Clockwork ran out of power. I wonder if we can get him to pull anything. It's probably a bit optimistic expecting this guy to actually pull anything much, but we'll see if we can give it a try. Famous last words, because it's, have I got everything railed up right, and it's hard to pull the thing. Whoa. It's hard to, yes, well, he's having rather more difficulty getting around. Oh, I think he's derailed. One of my coaches is derailed. Well, I think I messed up there. I wasn't too sure when I was recording and when I wasn't. The reason it was derailing going around that corner was because of I got the coupling hook on the wrong side between the engine, and they're very particularly, you've got to have them over on the right side, else they're not going to work. Let me see if I can get him to work again, to move a little bit. It's very awkward, though, because I don't have enough hands to do any of this stuff. Oh, how the heck am I supposed to do this? I'm trying to pull this out so the Clockwork will go. Oh, for goodness sake. Oh, he's going to just come back round and hit the back of it. Woohoo! I'm getting confused by camera operations now, apart from anything else. It's hard to do this because I don't have enough hands, really. It's, you know, at least with the electrical, I've just got to sort of turn a knob. But this, I've got to muck around, trying to pull this, yes, that's the one, trying to pull that out without derailing the engine or derailing the coaches. It's about as much as he got round before, isn't it? A little over 1 circuit. That seems to be about all he can manage with the coaches. He got round a bit over 3 times on his own, and he'd go on his own, I'm sure, now, if I could uncouple him from the coaches, but I don't think I can really do that on camera. It's not that he's got no power, you see. He just doesn't have quite enough power to keep going with the coaches. Nope. Nope, he does not have enough power to keep going anymore. Well, I did actually get him round after I turned the camera off and gave him a better push. I did actually get him going again, and he went round to here. So he got round the rest of that circuit, the second circuit with the coaches. But see, this is very difficult because I've got to pull that out. Famous last words. Now I think we're live. Oh, phew, total derailment on the point there. Okay, let me have a try going the other way. I started him out going that way, basically because I thought there was better protection here. I was rather afraid if I started him out going this way, he might just plunge off the end of the table there if he was very fast. But he doesn't seem to actually go so fast that he tends to plunge off the table. So let me see if I can get him going. Now I've wound him again. The problem is, as I say, is operating this control without derailing him. or derailing the coaches. Yes, well, he got round more than one circuit. This is his second circuit with the coaches. 2 circuits with the coaches, so that's pretty good. And I haven't even taken the mechanism of this apart and oiled it. I did clean the wheels extensively because I didn't want to get dirt all over my track. But also he got round basically, seems to be doing better this way, he got round 3 loops with the coaches, and of course he's stopped underneath the tunnel, which is the worst place for him to stop. But, well, what can I do? He really is out of power now. He really is out of power, but that's to be sort of expected. One more experiment. Let's see if we can see how he goes backwards. So now, this is the reversing operation. So now when it's pushed in, he's going forwards. When it's pulled all the way out like that, he's going backwards. If it's in the middle, it's not engaged with anything. So we hope that he'll go backwards now, and I've still got him coupled up to the coaches, so he's going... If I can get him to work, he'll be going cab first with the coaches now. Of course, I've got to... The problem is pulling that power thing out without derailing the stuff. Oh, maybe I don't have him wound enough, I don't know. He's going, or maybe he just doesn't like going backwards as much as he likes going forwards, I don't know. But he did get round. He went round the circuit backwards. Yes, and of course, predictably, he's going to get stuck exactly where I don't want him to get stuck, in the tunnel. Well, I can't really get him. Once he gets on the straight, he'll probably go better. But I can't get him to the straight. No, I'm now trying to push him. I've derailed the coaches, I think. Nope, I've derailed the coaches. I've derailed the coaches. It's very tricky to do this. No, well, that's... I can't... No, he doesn't want to go any more backwards. What can I tell you? Still, an interesting little thing. Okay, I can't resist one more little try at getting him to go backwards if I can. It's just... blimey. More little try at cab first running. I see basically about the same result, isn't it? He got stuck about the same place I got him stuck before. So he can't get round much more than a single circuit going backwards with the coaches. I'm sort of hoping that if I can get him... Nah, he really doesn't want to go anymore, does he? Well, he goes better on the straight, naturally, than the curve. Ooh, there he builds up some speed on the straight again. But then he stops again as he goes round the corner. Yeah, well, he's pretty much out of power, naturally enough. And I could feel his wheel flanges fighting there with a point. That's another problem, that his wheel flanges are fairly enormous. Anyway, there you go. He pulls gently in, and then we'll actually turn his power off on purpose. The Clockwork Triang saddle tank engine. Let me see if I can demonstrate the mechanism a bit. I don't know how much you can see this, but this here is the reversing gear. And this control, the control at the back on that side, controls the reversing gear. So as I pull that out, I don't know whether you can see that, but that gear is this gear disengages from there and engages to there. So that's for reverse with this gear engaged like that. And then I push it in all the way till it engages with both of those. And there's another one inside that disengages. And that should work. And then if I pull out the command on the control on the other side, that will let it turn, famous last words. I guess I don't have any power wound into it, so I gotta, oh yes, I've got it completely unwound. This is the spring, and those are spring stops to stop the spring unwinding too far. There, so now if I have famous last words, I can't seem to get the thing to go. I don't know why not now. It should be going, you'd have thought. Nope, I don't know. There we go. Oh, I guess I had the reverser stuck in the wrong position. Now if I stop that, it'll go. Now if I pull that into the reverse position, it should now go backwards. And it is going backwards. I don't know whether you can see that, but see, that's going backwards. And then we push the reverser in, and if we get it in the... But I didn't. It's a bit awkward getting it in the right position. Now it's going forwards. And I'm going to let it run down because I don't want to leave any pressure in the spring when I put it away, because that's how you lose the tension in your spring if you leave it wound. Okay, so I don't know how clear that was, but that was some attempt to demonstrate how the mechanism works, and we'll press the stop again to stop it, although it's not going now because it's wound down.
Next, I tried the electric version on my main Hornby 2-rail layout upstairs. It did run okay, but it went in the wrong direction, backwards when the controller was set to forwards. Clearly someone had assembled things with the motor polarity wrong. I figured I would correct this, as I really prefer to have all of my models running the same way, so I got the electric saddle tank back onto the bench. I tried running it with my bench power supply, basically just to confirm which way it ran so that I would know I'd got it right when I reversed it. There is a single screw in the back of the body of these models. Once that screw is removed, the back of the chassis can be lifted away from the body, and then the prongs at the front of the chassis can be pulled out of the holes in the front of the body. Here is the chassis out of the body. An X04 type motor is used. The motor is held onto the chassis by the screw seen at right here. Someone has modified this example, soldering the wire from the pickups directly to the brush on the near side. Normally that wire should be soldered to a separate piece that tucks in with the top of the brush. I undid the screw holding on the motor. With that done, I was able to lift the magnet end of the motor and pull the motor away from the chassis, but I couldn't detach it completely because of the wire soldered to the brush. I checked the polarity of the magnet with a compass. North was at the bottom, indicating that north should be at the top since the engine was currently running the wrong way. I removed the bolt and nut holding the magnet and the pole pieces together. I marked the magnet with a Sharpie so I wouldn't get confused as to which way I needed to put it back in. Then I pulled the magnet out with a pair of pliers. I reinserted the magnet after rotating it 180 degrees, so my marker line that was previously on the top of the near side was now on the bottom of the far side. I put the bolt back through the side pieces and the magnet and tightened up the nut. Here you can see the other side of the motor, with my marker line now at the bottom. I got the motor into my Dodds magnetizer and remagnetized it. Note that north is now at the top of the motor where the brush spring is. I refitted the motor in place on the chassis. And did the motor retaining screw back up again. There was an awkward soldered join in the wire from the pickups that was going to cause a short circuit unless something was done about it. I wrapped a piece of electrical tape round those wires so they wouldn't short. It might have been better to have completely replaced the wiring from the pickups to the brush, but I didn't bother for now as I wanted to get on. I tried the chassis on my Hornby 2-rail layout just to make sure that it now went in the correct direction. It did.
I actually got confused and assumed that the left of the chassis as seen here was the front. Actually, that's the back. The motor goes at the front, pointing backwards. But that didn't make any difference to confirming the direction of running. On two-rail tracks, direction of running is based entirely on the track itself, and it doesn't make any difference which way the loco is facing. So forward on this loop is supposed to involve things going clockwise, and so long as the loco moves clockwise when the controller is set to forward, all is correct. Three-rail double-O track is the exact opposite. Direction of running is determined by which way the loco is facing, and can be in either direction relative to the track. Having confirmed that I'd fixed the direction problem with the electric version, I put the body back onto the model. And I got it back onto the layout for another running test. It ran fine and in the correct direction, but it was rather noisy. I took the model back to the bench and lubricated rods, axles and gears with oil and grease as appropriate. Then I returned it to the Hornby two-rail layout for some running.
Alright, so now that I've modified the motor on this electric version of the Triang saddle tank so that it actually goes forwards when I set the controller to forwards, let me see if I can run it for you a bit. Yeah, this is my main Hornby two-rail layout, and it's a bit quieter as well. Now I've oiled it a bit. That's about 50% power here on the Morley controller I've got on here. So, he's going fairly decently now. Okay, we'll slow that controller down and then we'll put it into reverse. Slightly less keen going in reverse, but he will go. Okay. So now what I'd like to do, if I can, is have him pull a train. In fact, specifically, what I'd like to do is try and shunt this train that I've got here behind that's the Bachmann Midland 1F for the open cab, a very nice little engine. I'd like to shunt that round if I can, so that the Triang can pull it, but there's nowhere to put the Triang properly, so I'm going to just cheat and stick the Triang there for a minute, because there's no other siding off there. So we'll have to change these points if I want to do that. Change that point, change that point. Now, the question is, will that 1F still go after sitting in that siding for months? It's perhaps a little optimistic expecting it to do so. Oh no, yeah, it's going gently backwards, and can we get everybody low? There we go. So we've shunted those. Complicated. Trying to do this while I've got the camera, so we'll shut the point there, so we're not going to the siding. Now can we bring the 1F forward again? Ooh, lovely little engine that 1F is. I do really like it. Very nice, and of course made even nicer by the fact that it's been weathered a little bit and it's got a crew on it there. Now the problem is, of course, if I want to pedal. I'm trying to uncouple this whilst operating the camera, which is just ridiculous because I can't really do it because I've only got two hands.
Now I've knocked that... it's just very difficult trying to do stuff with one hand, with left-handed while I'm operating the camera. Okay, anyway, so we've uncoupled the 1F now, albeit rather clumsily, and I've knocked the uncoupler down because of course I didn't put it really where it should go. Okay. So now, all being well, I'll take the 1F round and put him into the siding. No automated points on this layout, all manual. I left them all manual, they're all sort of at the front and I left them all manual. So we'll shut off the power to that siding again. Yeah, shut off the point. Now I'm just going to try and put the triang back on these tracks. Have I got him on? Oh dear. Yeah, I think so. Okay, so let's see if we can couple this train up. Yeah, it's got rather modern couplings on it. And he's got a very old coupling on. We'll see. Okay, let's see if we can pull this train. Hopefully so. That's about just under 50% power, actually, about 45% power. Not bad. Little freight train. And slowing down now for some reason, so we'll give him a tiny bit more power. It's actually, that's still under 50% power. So only give it a tiny nudge up. Not bad. I'm not going to try and push this train backwards with him, I don't think. But anyway, so there you go. So that's the electric version of the strange triang saddle tank. Pulling the train on this layout. No detente for stopping on that controller, which always kind of gets me, but so I have to look at the controller to stop it. So there you go.
Both models had now had some successful running. At this point I wanted to change the markings on the Clockwork version, as I don't run British Railways. The markings appeared to be decals rather than tampo printing. I used some microset to soften the decals, and then gently scraped them off with a fingernail so as not to damage the plastic. This resulted in a fairly clean removal of the BR crest. I did the same thing on the other side. There's a slight mark where the crest used to be, but it's not too bad. The cabside numbers were a bit harder to remove. I got the first one off pretty well, but the numbers on the other side were rather obstinate. It seemed that there were almost grooves in the plastic. I wanted to see if I could disassemble the Clockwork version to get a better look at the mechanism. It had the same screw in the back of the body as the electric version, but I couldn't quite see how disassembly was supposed to work with the control rods sticking through the back windows of the cab as they do. It turned out that the control rods could pivot where they were attached to the mechanism, so it was possible to pull the body away from the chassis after that screw was removed. However, it wasn't possible to totally separate body and chassis, as the control rods were crimped at their ends where they connected to the mechanism, meaning that there was no easy way to detach them at that end, and it wasn't possible to work the knobs on the ends of the control rods through the cab windows. They were just a bit too big to get through. Still, with the model disassembled this far, I was able to lubricate the pivot points for the clockwork mechanism, and I did so. With that done, I went ahead and refitted the body. This is an R151 scale model of an L&YR Class 23, which I bought a while ago. Here you can see the R151 Class 23 together with the Triang saddle tank model. Apart from differences in features such as the splashers and the shape of the cab windows, the Triang model is just much bigger and beefier, and I assume this was done specifically to allow room for the clockwork mechanism. My Fox waterslide decals that I ordered a while ago still haven't arrived. I'm starting to wonder if I'm ever going to get those. But I did recently pick up a couple more sheets of the HMRS Pressfix Crew LMS decals, so I decided to use those for remarking the clockwork model. One basic problem I had was that the winding hole was located where the running number should have gone, given that I was trying to mark it as a Class 23. I put LMS letters on the sides of the tanks. I put these on as a single transfer as the spacing on the HMRS sheet seemed about right. Here you can see the Pressfix transfer after I've applied water to the backing tissue. I put a similar transfer onto the other side of the tank. And here's that side with the backing tissue removed. I decided just to fudge the number issue by putting the running number underneath the winding hole. 11447 was the LMS running number of the L&YR Class 23 that originally bore the number 748. There's that running number after removal of the backing tissue. There was no winding hole on the other side, but I put the running number in the same position just to be consistent. And I got the clockwork model back onto my 003 rail tracks for a bit more running.
Okay, let me see if I can just show this clockwork tank engine going round finally in its new LMS livery, as it were. Ooh. You really don't have much control over this. It just goes fast as long as it's got winding, and then when the winding runs out it stops, and there's not much you can do about that. It's clockwork. It's going to get stuck under the tunnel, isn't it? Yes. Well, that's not very helpful. Idiom to you. Come on, out of the tunnel. I'm just trying to coax it out of the tunnel. That's all I can do. That's your lot.